This evening, we have the second speaker series for this fiscal year that has been prepared by that committee. And I would like to note that the mission of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is to serve to connect Wilsonville to diverse perspectives and lived experiences of its people. They advocate for equitable access and opportunity for all community members. They identify barriers to participation and inclusion and pursue programs, policies, and partnerships and ideas to remove those barriers. And this is one way that they work. This is one way that they work towards their goals. Thank you. So this evening, there's some refreshments in the back. The restrooms are down by the entrance. And then there are also comment cards in the back of the room. So when we put together this series every year, the committee's always looking for input from the community as to what you'd like to hear about. If there's something like you'd like to learn more about, something that we can improve on, we welcome that feedback. And there's also a flyer at the back of the room that has all of the other programming that the committee has put together for the upcoming year. And with that, I will hand it over to our speakers, and they are from Clackamas County's Behavioral Health Unit. Thanks.
Thank you. We have this double mic situation. So I'm Stacy England, and I'm the supervisor of the mobile crisis team. And we work for the Behavioral Health Division. So what we do is we provide, we kind of go out to homes and community and places and help assess in times of mental health emergencies and mental health crises. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. On the back table with the other stuff that was mentioned, you'll see some cards for our crisis and support line in English and in Spanish. We also put out some flyers about safe social media usage and cell phone safety tips, and magnets with our crisis line phone number on there as well. There's some small ones and some large ones, which is great for like visibility. So I will turn it over.
And hi, my name is Brenda Evans, and I'm on the Clackamas County Mobile Crisis Team, and I was hired through the Wilsonville City through Clackamas County Mobile Crisis Team, and I'm here with the police department. So I'm here in the city, able to take calls and help people who are having crisis situations.
And can you hear me okay? Okay, and I'm Robbie. I'm also part of the mobile crisis team. And I'm a social worker on the team, but I also have a long history of working with youth, specifically in like pretty intense behavioral settings. And so with that today, we brought a little bit of a presentation with some pretty basic stuff about like strategies you can use when you're having to have hard conversations with kids, but they really are applicable to anybody. And so you're going to notice through part of this, it's going to feel a little less formal, and that's on purpose, right? Because we're talking about working with youth, and right, I'm not going to show up in a suit and tie and try to have a super hard conversation with a kid, okay? So does anyone have any questions about us or what we do, our credentials, anything like that real quick before I kind of hop into it? No? Okay. All right. So in strategies for hard conversations, I'm actually going to ask for y'all to participate a little bit. Don't worry, it's not going to get like real personal. You're not going to have to share a lot. But I am going to ask for a little bit of talking back to me at certain points, because we're going to do a little exercise just to kind of help you get yourself in the brain space of kind of where you need to be when talking with youth. Okay? Sound good? Has anyone watched The Office before? The TV show? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. A few of us. Oh, sorry, I'll hold it closer. Is that better? Okay. All right. So we are going to watch a clip from The Office. And up at the top, you'll see it says, I have a definition here, and it's going to be pretty important as we go on. So judgment in the world of mental health has a pretty specific meaning, and it's an opinion or qualifier that is added to an observation that is not based on facts. So in mental health, we kind of talk about this in the way of like, when you are having a judgment about someone or something they're saying, and it's going to change the way that you're perceiving what they say, right? So we're going to practice just kind of noticing that a little bit in a pretty chaotic scenario, which is, this is what it was like when I worked in a high school, and so this is kind of where we're going to start. So watch the video. Notice what judgments or thoughts come up to you in this scenario, right? How would you respond? And what are you thinking about the people and what they're doing, okay? Okay, so does anyone have any observations, thoughts? It can be judgments about the clip, about the show. You thought it was funny, stupid, the people, what's going on? Anyone?
They're not very well prepared.
They're not well prepared. Uh-huh. There's a little, yeah. Anyone else?
So much for teamwork. I mean, everybody was out for themselves.
Zero teamwork. Uh-huh. What about behaviors? What did people do? Panic. Specifically, how did some people panic?
In a selfish way.
Selfish? Get more specific. What did people do? So, what's his name? The guy with the bald part on his head, and he started breaking open. Kevin. Yeah, what did Kevin do?
Started looting the
He started looting. What did the short lady with the cat do?
Throw the cat?
Yeah, she threw the cat. She's trying to chuck it to get it safe. Oscar's climbing into the vents. So, right, the judgment being like these people are falling kind of into baseline behaviors, like what they do when they're stressed. Woefully exaggerated. Yeah? Because has anyone tried to have a conversation with a teenager in a chaotic moment? Right? It's very similar. If you've been on the side of trying to calm a teen down, it can feel very similar. Because when we freak out, where do our brains go? Right? They immediately default to chaos. Just like everyone here. Right? So 1, do your fire safety training. And 2, things get real complicated when stress is involved, even if the answer is the most simple thing. Which was, did anyone catch what just the simple thing to do was? Pull the fire alarm. Which we've all heard for our whole lives. In the US, it's like, in the curriculum, yeah, it's the basic, from start to finish in school you're taught that, but no one remembers it. Yeah. Huh?
Said the fire extinguisher was
The fire extinguisher was right there. Okay, did anyone have any judgments, feelings about people, the video, like as far as things we would normally think, like, oh, that person was dumb, or this video is meh, anything like that?
a leadership. Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just going to say the instigator thought it was okay to take advantage of everybody.
Yes. He had good intentions, but really kind of went for it in a not great way.
And leadership can make a big difference in a chaotic environment.
Yes.
Leadership makes a huge difference. Yeah? We've noticed it in work. We notice it in these situations. Changing it over to kids, remember, the older we are, we're the leaders, right? We have the experience to be able to calm it down, right? We have the know-how. We're not going to do it like Dwight, though, the guy who set the fire. We're not going to teach by that. So, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to move on to the first section. Sound good? Okay. So when you're having conversations with people, like you all noticed, everyone in the video had a different motivation that was wholly selfish, right? We do this subconsciously and in almost every scenario, right? So when we're talking with kids, has anyone here ever tried to get someone to just like, awkward conversation? Hey, you kind of stink. Did you put your deodorant on today? Right? Yeah. How does those conversations usually go?
I have a little split daughter, so.
Offer them a secret,
They don't go well.
offer them a secret or gum or whatever.
Offer them a secret.
I meant, you know, the roll-on kind.
Yeah.
So I taught fifth grade, so I had these conversations all the time. And if I was direct without judgment, the conversation goes really, really well. You know, but if I'm like, hey, you know, kind of skirting around it, it makes it a little bit more awkward. But if I'm direct and just give them the facts, yes, it goes well.
And to get to that direct spot, you have to be really good at noticing one thing about yourself, which is what is my motivation? And what is the kid's motivation? Right? Because a lot of times I just kind of want the kid to know they're being a little gross, right? And you need to take care of yourself. But we don't say that. We're like, hey, have you showered today? Have you, right? We kind of dance around it, and it creates a tension. And so you'll notice one of the main things you should slow down and focus in on if you're running into conflict is, are your motivations in line? Because does a fifth grader care about their stink? No, until it affects them. But they don't know that, right? We do because we're older, but they don't. So our motivation is for them not to suffer. Theirs is to do whatever they want, right? They're fifth graders, right? So what is your motivation? What is theirs motivation? Why does it matter? And does it actually benefit both of you? Does that make sense? Because the kids might stink, but they all stink, so they can't smell it. So really the motivation isn't there for them until a crush thinks they smell bad, or, right, they get embarrassed in front of the whole class. Are your values different is kind of a big one here. Some people do not care that they stink. And you could tell them till you're blue in the face that you need to put deodorant on because that's a societally acceptable thing to do, but if that is not their value, it will not matter. So these things are kind of floating around subconsciously, and we don't even know it, we just kind of act on it, right? Based on how we were raised. So you really got to pay attention to how that flows into your interactions with kids, because if you miss it, you can tell pretty quickly when it starts to become a conflict, right? Give me your phone. No, I don't want to, right? My value is you get good sleep, you get good grades. Their value is I want to talk to my friends, right? It's real important to know the difference. Okay.
Would not the adult want to find out what the motivation is of the student for that child, or the child? Yes.
Yes. Unfortunately, as we get older, the impetus gets put on us, right? Because we know better, so we can do better. So you're right. It's on us to help the kid find the motivation. Because it's a skill they don't know yet, and we'll get more to that. But oftentimes we get stuck up on the last bit under motivation, which is, am I assuming bad intention, right? When most kids don't mean any ill intent. In middle school and fifth grade, sometimes they get really mean, right? But for the most part, people just don't know better, okay? I'm not gonna read a lot of these because I think we all know, right? The younger someone is, their skills just are not there, right? Their ability to meet my expectation a lot of times is not there, right? Because as we get older, we do this thing where we start to forget what it's like. We can remember it, but we can't experience it like we did used to, right? What it's like to have to calm down after you've been embarrassed in front of all your friends. For us, it's pretty easy. We can just kind of move on. But a kid takes a long time to get there. There's a lot of skill in that, right? The one I do want to mention is the one at the top. Is, right, under ability. Do they actually have the ability? Because was I even clear in what I wanted? Does that make sense? A lot of times that gets really confusing because as we get older, we start to assume a lot about what other people know, right? A lot of people just don't know. And I might show you a little video of that later, but we're gonna move on, okay? Anyone questions so far? You're all good? Okay, so key things to remember when you're slowing down talking to someone. Motivations, are we aligned? And skill, are they capable, am I capable of having this conversation, right? Because just like the chaos, our brains do wild things when emotions get involved, okay? So just a quick touch, we're not gonna dive into it, but this comes from Kaiser's ACEs studies, which is adverse child experiences. It shows how adverse, stressful, traumatic things affect the brain and how it functions. So on the left is a typical brain, okay? And that's the blood flow you see represented, right? So if you look at the left, almost everything is lit up, meaning all of my skills are available, okay? What do you guys notice about the right side? Blacked out. It's not connecting. Yeah, exactly. This happens much quicker when we're younger. Meaning, I might have, excuse me, I might have the skills, the front part of the brain, but they're not connecting. How many times have you talked to a kid or someone younger? I know you know better, what don't you get? They might actually not remember in the moment. And they might know the skill, but they might not be able to connect it. So kind of back to before, our motivations are going to be different because our stresses are going to be different. So how can we bring that down, right? Which brings us to this. This is the way to bring that brain back down to functioning. Because if you look on the left side of this brain, everything is equally lit up. So the back part of the brain, that's where we'll see the kind of primitive anger reactions coming from. They're both lit in both brains. Just the typical brain has the prefrontal cortex, our executive functioning, our control, is also lit up. So they're angry and they're in control, or they're sad and they're in control. Kids lack the control because the bridges aren't there, right?
Does anyone know the flipped lid? Dan Siegel's flipped lid. That's this one. Can we go back to the brain?
Yeah.
Has anyone ever heard Dan Siegel talk about the flipped lid? So basically, he always says, I brought my handy brain statue thing with me, and he whips out his hand. So the idea is that our hand could be a model of our brains. And what happens is the brain stem back here, is what's responsible for, they call it like our old brain. Breathing, walking, all those automatic things that we just do and don't think about, that's all in the old brain. Smelling, our 5 senses, right? In the middle is our amygdala. This is fight, flight, or freeze, right? And that's what that is. That is our sort of trauma center. And this part that comes over the top is our prefrontal cortex. That is what makes us think. That's what gives us cognition and the ability to reason. So what happens when we get triggered is that prefrontal cortex goes offline. We call it flipping the lid. And what reacts is fight, flight, or freeze. And so what you see here is that, when that prefrontal cortex is on, I can think, I can participate in a conversation with you, but in this brain, all the time, fight, flight, or freeze. It's right there. It's right under the skin. It does not take much to take that prefrontal cortex offline. And so what you're communicating with, sometimes when Robbie was talking about skill and, you think you're having a conversation with someone who can kind of participate in that conversation, but the prefrontal cortex is offline. So you're talking to someone who's already in a trauma response. And so what we need to do, which Robbie will talk about, are some things to kind of like relax, bring that down, make this a safe space so we can get this back online and actually participate in a conversation together.
Which is safety. Safety is how you bring the lid down, right? Because when it's up, I'm trying to fight, like Stacy's saying, fight, flight, or freeze. So we gotta make someone remember that they are safe. Key, you actually have to be in a safe place, right? If you're in a car accident on the side of the road, you can do a lot, but that's not safe, right? So when you're gonna have a hard conversation, safety and timing is really important, right? Because if I've just taken a phone from someone because I said, look, just tell me what you did. It's gonna be okay. I won't be mad at you. Oh, I spent $3,000 on your credit card. give me that. What did you say? I can't believe you, right? I'm not actually being very safe. I kind of like led them into a little bit of a trap. Unknowingly, unmeaning, because now I'm upset because you spent $3,000, right, on my credit card. But once that happens, there's no conversation that's going to be productive at all. You're just going to be fighting because both of your lids are flipped. You're thinking about money, and now the kid's thinking they're in trouble when you said they'd be okay. So, step one, are you being accountable as an adult? Did you say you were going to be safe? Did you hold yourself to that? This is one of the most difficult things about having hard conversations is you got to know yourself pretty well. And know, like, is my temper out of check? Am I really upset? Can I have this conversation? Or am I just reacting to someone, right? Versus responding. Does that make sense, the difference between reacting and responding? I'm getting a nod, a couple nods, okay. Okay. The last part of this is, am I assuming a shared context? Which is what I'm going back to earlier, right? So let's say I'm in this conversation, and I'm like, oh, I'm yelling at them. I told them I would be okay. Okay, now I'm chill, right? A lot of times we will accidentally misread the kid quieting down as chill. I am now assuming that because I'm calm, they're calm. Does that make sense? I'm also going to start assuming that because I could calm myself down, they can calm themselves down, right? I'm assuming the shared context of skill. Does that make sense? And that gets really tricky because kids, just inherently because of time and development, the brain is not fully developed until late 20s. They cannot bring it down as well. But we tend to forget that as we get older because it gets so easy, right? So, check the shared context. Am I assuming a lot more than what is actually happening in front of me? Okay? And when you can do that, then you guys can actually focus on what do we need to do right now?
Are you saying that if you, as the protagonist, let's put it, and it's flipping your lid, if you calm down, that the other person is going to automatically calm down?
No.
I didn't get that.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. No. So a lot of times when we calm down, we'll see people start to match that, and they'll start to slow down, but we misread that as them calming down. Yeah. But it is actually usually not right? It's usually just a miscommunication, and we have to actually work at calming down. But as adults, we can do it much quicker, so we usually got to be the ones to start that, right? And there's a whole bunch of little tips and tricks you can get into doing that. We won't have time for that today, but some basic ones. I mean, you've seen it in TV, you've done it yourselves. Go take a walk. Let's take a 10-minute break. Go take a shower. Temperature is a huge thing, smell's a huge thing. Just time. Large muscle movement, exercise, go run. How many times have you told a kid who's hyped up to just go sprint? They come back tired and they're a lot better.
Yeah.
Your senses.
Bringing it back down, right? Timing is huge because in arguments we tend to have to solve it right now. The issue is right now. I took the phone, you're angry, I'm angry, we've got to fix it right now. Can you fix it right now if your lid's flipped? No. You gotta bring it back down. Okay? So, once you can bring it down, I'm not gonna read all this, but don't worry, we're gonna give the slides so people can read this later. But once you are calm, then it is time to have the conversation. So it's gonna feel very counterintuitive, right? Especially to the ways a lot of us were raised, right? But if our goal is to teach this person how to do this on their own, this is kind of how we gotta do it, okay? So once you start addressing the issue, there's a lot here, y'all. But it's kind of repetition. So you're gonna stick to just facts, right? Remember judgments earlier? You just want your phone because you want to do this. Is that a fact or a judgment? Did I hear judgment? Yes, it's a judgment. Because no matter how well we know someone, we can't actually 100% predict what they're going to do. And if we try, we're usually going to get it wrong and get misunderstood, okay? So check your feelings as much as you can. What are just the facts, okay? Express how you are perceiving it. Because a lot of times we think we're explaining something really well, but actually it's not coming across. Case in point, earlier, right? Explaining that if I calm myself down, I'm going to have to work, came off as, if I calm down, you'll calm down. Not correct. But thank you. Because you said how you perceived it, I could then give you what I was actually trying to say. Right? Make it safe. Same thing. How many times have you guys talked to a kid and they've calmed down, and what happens the moment you start the conversation again? Right up again. What do you have to do then? Bring it back down. This way is a lot longer than the way a lot of us were taught, right? But I can guarantee kids learn the lessons much quicker, right? So bring it back down to safety. Make the invisible visible, right? Hey, I noticed you got really upset about your phone. I am not sure why. It feels like you're hiding something. Right? Oftentimes, that's why we want to take the phone. You're doing something. But do we ever really say that? No, it's time to hand in your phone. Why are you freaking out? It's just time to hand in your phone. And what I really am saying is, why are you not handing in your phone? I think you're doing something you're not supposed to. Right? Back to what you said earlier. You have to say it. You gotta make it clear. Okay? Clarify the misunderstandings. We talked about that. Okay? Acknowledge what it's like. It is very difficult to change. Right? Like, it's very easy to yell at someone, scare them, get them to stop right now, and to think, oh, I did it. They gave me the phone. I won. Right? But then what happens the next time you get to the phone? It's a fight again because the lesson wasn't learned. Right? So we have to acknowledge how difficult it is, one, for us. It is not fun having these conversations. It is not fun teaching someone to walk through all the steps. It's also not fun for that person because they're young. They just want to have fun, and they should, right? That's how they're wired. Okay? So reassure them. It seems silly, but constant reassurance. Because again, we forget that shared context. Because I am confident in myself does not mean someone else is. Right? Because I am confident I can do something calmly does not mean they are confident I can do something calmly. Make sense? Okay. So, the last one, probably one of the most important ones. Notice your moves to control or silence. Sorry, right? We all default to this in one way or another, especially when our lid is slipped, right? When tensions are high, us as people tend to try to control the situation. It can either be through fighting, or freezing, right? We're trying to control it so we feel better, but control is not teaching, right? And I forget who did the study, but there's lots of studies that show, sure, control can stop a behavior in a moment, and as long as that person who initiated the control is there, it will work, right? Because it's based on fear. But the moment that person, that thing is gone, out the door. They see it time and time again in business. The really strict boss gets results, but the moment they're gone, everything falls apart. Versus teams that learn and grow are very resilient. Okay? So it's a pretty difficult trap to stay out of because control works quickly, but it does not teach. Okay? So, to stay out of control, you have to stay flexible, right? Meaning, does anyone here know physics, that kind of stuff? It's okay if not. Does anyone know what is required to have resistance?
Energy.
Energy, specifically what?
Force.
Force. Yes. Okay. If something is resisting, that means I have to be applying force. okay? So if I notice myself, this kid's just resisting. They're not doing what I want. That means I am applying what? Force. That means I am defaulting to control because it is what I know, right? So we have to stay flexible. I am forcing something. Why? We jump back to the first slides. Why am I forcing it? How can we work together? How can we calm down, find our mutual goals, and figure it out? You'll notice in this, it's a lot of looping back to the beginning at every step. Every time I notice something, I have to loop back, and we got to get on the same page, okay? So, stay flexible. If you notice only one option coming to mind, I hate to break it to you, you're not being flexible, because there is always more than one way to what? Skin a cat. It's a horrible saying, don't skin cats. But you have lots of options, but we tend to miss it, we forget it, okay? Once you get through all of that, agree on a plan together. Because, right, if it's not beneficial to them, not gonna do it, because none of us work for free, right? If we did, that'd be called volunteering, and that's very different, right? But we're asking people to work. I am trying to get you to change. I'm trying to work on something in our relationship, right? It is work. So make sure it's beneficial to both of you. This is the tricky part. Has anyone ever done something with someone, gotten in an argument, and you go to leave, and that person didn't get exactly what they needed? What happens? They follow you around and can't let it go. We gotta keep talking about the plan, and I gotta keep nagging you because you're not listening. What does that do to the plan ultimately? Middle schoolers, teenagers usually get a big middle finger, or a lot worse, right? Once you make the plan, end it. That is it. We're gonna want to keep going because it feels better. Because for however altruistic we are as people, and how nice we want to think we are, a lot of us have that little judgment deep down inside of you did something bad and I kind of want you to feel bad about it. But if I'm wanting you to feel bad about something, we're not thinking about the goal anymore. We're not learning. We're just kind of being petty with each other. We're people. It happens. If someone wrongs you, you kind of want to wrong them back, right? But that's not growing. That's not changing. So, again, back to the beginning. Notice it and try to shift, okay? So once it's done, move on. And last but not least, the least favorite one is a lot of times we want to teach people and we want it to change, right? But if you don't have a relationship, it's not going to work. So most of the time, when a kid does something bad, a kid does something wrong, they offend you, they call you something, right? 90% of the time, the chaos comes after I try to teach them. Let's say a kid's doing something out here in the lobby. 90% of the time they're doing fine, but they walk by and they scream at someone, right? But then they let it go. I come over, I try to teach them. Now what am I doing, right? Now we're adding energy. When realistically, you just gotta kind of let it go. 90% of the time, we just gotta let it go. It's a snide comment. It's a stupid thing. I know you said that because you're angry, but I'm gonna hold you to it and I'm gonna make you think, right? 90% of the time, if you want the relationship to get better, you gotta let it go. Because if you're focused on something very specific, you're gonna have a hard time calming down. So, I know it was a lot, but we'll get you the slides, right? Takeaway points is...
Point of clarification, you were talking about force
Yes.
and then flexibility.
Yes.
So this is my question. If you're using force, how are you going to get back to the flexibility?
Who this is? Yes, let it go. It sounds really silly, but okay, is someone willing to stand up and touch my hand and we're going to do a little push-pull game? If not, that's okay. I'm going to have Brenda do it. Okay, so just like the video, watch what we are doing, okay? Brenda's goal is to continuously push, use force against my hand, right? I'm resisting. If I let go, what happens? Yeah, she'll fall flat on her face. But if she keeps trying to keep her hand on, she has to follow. She has to dance with me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Because
I just see it.
yeah, totally. No, thank you. Because we will notice that before they do. We're both going to be pushing, right? But let's dance. Let's not do this, okay? So yes, thank you. This is perfect clarification. I honestly really wanted to do that activity, so thank you. Right? Okay, so if you take away anything from this, the one thing, if you can't remember it, is if you're angry, let it go, right? If your emotions are way up here, let it go, come back to it. Okay? All right, that's it. Thank you, y'all. Any other clarification? That was great. Any other questions? Thoughts? Yeah. If not, we got resources that you can look at, and they have experts of their own, and so you can kind of peruse through, and they'll let you know if you want more trainings or other stuff like that. Okay? I'll pull it up on Google so these two can talk about it. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
We're talking about the crisis line.
So no questions for Robbie? Yeah.
If you have to let it go, and not push it too much, then how do you still get to the point where you have like accountability and change?
Once you're calm, you got to come back to it. That's the hard part. You have to constantly come back to it, because a lot of us, once we're calm, we kind of lose the energy. And if we can hit step one and let it go, great. But we tend to then start avoiding it, right? Because I don't want to make it upset again. I don't want to, right? But it's go back to the conversation. If things get heated again, bring back safety, calm it down, reassure, come back to it. It's going to get heated again, and you do it as many times, right?
And
it takes a while.
Kind of a contradiction from what you had just said. It's important that when you are bringing it down, you have to, or when you come back to it, it's important that when you are coming back to it, that you're both in the calm state. And I think that's something that I just wanted to make sure that was clarified, because if you bring it back and that person's not ready they haven't let it go yet, then it's not the appropriate time. And so like Robbie was saying, we've got to keep practicing coming down. Does that make?
So I understand that you're sometimes going out with law enforcement, and sometimes there's a lot of yelling and direction being given by law enforcement. So what is your experience with someone in a mental health crisis when you're there with law enforcement?
Can I ask a clarifier? Are you talking about like our experience as far as what it's like, or kind of how we handle it?
Yeah, are you able, how do you get to a safe place with someone? Is it just a really long time?
There's a couple answers to it. Brenda works with law enforcement specifically, so she'll have a different part. For us mobile people, if law enforcement is there, it's because there's a safety issue above what we can realistically manage. Because there are some states that people will get into where the safety risk is just up here. So they keep us safe. Yeah. It can be intense.
And from my experience, if they have observed that there's not a safety issue, we will step right in, and they step away, we step in. We really do work very closely together, and we have a lot of trust and experience with one another, and we do respect each other's roles. And again, like Robbie was saying, they're there to ensure our safety, and we're going to do everything we can to help that person with the mental health crisis. And did you want to explain that?
So, kind of relating to both questions, I just wanted to introduce you all a little bit to the crisis cycle. So, this line is what we would call baseline, which is our normal, everyday way of being, our normal level of sort of emotional agitation or not, just how we are. And so we start out calm. There's some kind of triggering event. We start to get sort of escalated. This is us and youth. Things amp up, and then we're at this crisis cycle, right? We're at the height of the crisis. After crisis, there's this thing called the de-escalation or post-crisis fatigue, and people will come down. Sometimes you'll see, like, how can someone get so mad and then just fall asleep? Or cry so hard and then just, like, pass out. That's what's happening here. The body's just exhausted. The mind's exhausted. And then there's this dip that often goes below baseline, and those are sort of depressive behaviors, apologies, I feel terrible for what I did, shame, guilt, all that stuff. And then we recover, and we come back to baseline. So the times to intervene, with all the stuff Robbie was talking about, what we do is we're having a lot of these deep conversations about what's going on in that recovery phase. After the depression, thank you. After the depression, after the crisis is de-escalated, and a little bit after the emotions have stabilized, people can learn here. People can also learn here. So this becomes really valuable information. So we had this blow up, we learned a lesson, we had a conversation. Now I know that when you get triggered, I can respond differently. I can have that conversation with both of our lids online, and we can bring it back down a lot faster than we can bring it down if we wait till things get up here. And that is holding to the fact that kids, especially teenagers and like your 3 to 5-year-olds, are kind of like half flipped all the time. It's just developmentally where they are. But so we're doing a lot of learning here and here. And our intervention here is really just about the safety and the stuff that Robbie talked about, so we can shorten this and get back to baseline faster.
And sometimes it can be a really wide range roller coaster. And so that's why it's really important, again, to work on the de-escalation and to let it go. That's why that part is really important. So, and then I just wanted to clarify and make sure that your question was answered.
Yes, I don't know.
Bring them on.
So for young people in our community, my experience is your crisis line is fabulous. But if we need to go to an emergency room or we need ongoing counseling, that seems like it's a long ways away. Is that your experience too? What are resources locally for youth?
Yeah, if you call the crisis line, they can help you. So we've rebranded our crisis line recently to the crisis and support line because you don't have to be in a crisis to call. So if you call there, give them your insurance, they will do their best to find a provider that works with your network. You can also call your insurance company and ask that information. And if you have private insurance, Psychology Today is pretty good at listing out providers in the area. Our crisis and support line is also connected to our urgent walk-in clinic, which anyone can walk into. It's on 82nd Avenue. And we do have youth specialists working at the crisis walk-in clinic as well. So if you need an immediate, like, someone talked to me today, they can do that as well. They also do bridge counseling. The other thing that the crisis and support line and mobile crisis, so our crisis line dispatches the mobile crisis team, which is where I work, we work. And we also have a new thing called MRSS. It's Mobile Response Stabilization Services. So this is a 56-day stabilization, in-home stabilization program for youth who are really struggling and need just a little bit of bridge support, either connecting to a service or enhancing the services that they already had to get through a crisis episode. So the mobile team can make a referral, the walk-in clinic can make a referral, and Brenda can make referrals, and emergency departments. Our provider for that is Catholic Community Services. We do sometimes run into a bit of a capacity issue, so I do encourage folks, if you're looking for that service specifically, if you call ahead, they'll actually call ahead and find out if we have capacity that day. And it's very low barrier and a really wonderful resource that we're hoping to be able to expand.
We also have the Clackamas County RAP team and services as well that we can, find the most appropriate referral at that time. And so that's part of what we do with Mobile Crisis. My role with their role, we're going to look at the resources that the person already has or they don't have, and then we're going to try to connect them to appropriate resources. And sometimes, to be honest, it takes time. It's not an overnight. It's not always easy to find the most appropriate resources, but that's why we have the urgent walk-in clinic, and that's why we have the crisis line, so that we have those additional supports in the time frame while we're working on trying to find those ongoing services. Yes.
I have a question. In my church in Beaverton, we have 2 autistic children, and one's becoming a teenager now. Do you often come up with children with autism that are in crisis?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Their behavior is so different.
Yes. So you are noticing there are certain crises that are going to present different. So developmental stuff, neurological stuff, there is a whole different level of rigidity there that's physical. So yes, we come across it. The ways to respond in that is going to depend heavily on the systems that are already in place for that person. We can help people get started, but let's say someone with autism, hopefully they'll have a personal support worker, they have teams coming to their home often, and if they don't, that's kind of where we'll try to help them get settled and get connected, because they really should.
I have a question maybe for Brenda. So here in Wilsonville, we've got the mobile support team, which I'm understanding a little bit about, but what are the situations where, Brenda, you can be, available quickly, or do you wait for the mobile support team?
So it's really unique in my role because I'm typically going out with law enforcement if there's a safety issue or if it's a law enforcement call. If a family's in crisis and they don't need law enforcement involvement, they can still call the crisis line. The crisis line can connect with me, and one of the mobile team members or a peer could come out and join me on a call. So it's really beautiful because we work very closely together. We're on the same team. We support each other. I'm able to have any of them come out as needed. I do a lot of follow-up here, and that means I'm helping people connect to those services for an ongoing basis, which means a lot of times I will do some responses on my own because we've already identified safety and made sure that there's not a safety issue. Whereas with mobile crisis, they're always going to go out with a team of 2 because they're always going on responses where they've never interacted with that individual.
For the time bit you were asking, the rule of thumb for people, let's say you're in a crisis and you feel like safety is becoming an issue. If you need help within 15 minutes, start with 911 or non-emergency, right? Because it takes us a while to get places we don't have the lights. So if you need something in 15 minutes, start there. You can call us at the same time, right? It'll get us both going, but we'll work with law enforcement. They usually give us a call. If you can wait a little bit longer than that, our crisis line, they'll get you to us or they'll help coach you through a situation. Can I talk about after hours? It gets a little different after 6:30 p.m. The Multnomah County Crisis Line answers our phones. And so they won't know everything that's going on. So if you worked with us before, they won't know for the most part. But dispatch times are much longer in the evening. And right now there's just one of us, me. And so I have to go with law enforcement because we have to do a 2-person response on new crisis calls. And so unfortunately, keep that in mind. If I got to go out after 6:30, I'd love to come out. I have to go with law enforcement. Yeah.
And obviously, if it's here in Wilsonville, Robbie can join me or whoever's on, we really work closely together. And you can request when you call the crisis line that you would like a mobile outreach.
So you have 24/7 support. Are there more than 3 of you?
Yeah. Not enough, but yes. We have, oh gosh, I keep losing track, 8 or 9 master's level clinicians, and we have 2 vacancies right now. So right now, our day shift, we have teams of 2 covering day shift, which for us is 8:30 to 7. Robbie's on swing shift, works till midnight, Monday through Friday. We have hired a partner for him who is bilingual in Spanish. So he's training right now and will probably be a few months because it's kind of a long onboarding process for us. And then after hours, after midnight, and after 6:30 on weekends, actually our day team staff do an on-call rotation to cover overnights right now. So we are 24/7. Brenda is in Wilsonville Tuesday through Friday at the police department. And so she's here, and she only serves this community, whereas the mobile team serves the entire county. And the main difference, again, that she gets a lot of her calls through the police department, and we get our calls through the crisis line and also 988, which is the new the new number for the National Suicide Hotline.
But you're pretty busy.
Yes. Right now, the last 3 months, but it really does come and go. We have the quarter prior was very slow for us. I think we had about 120 mobile crisis calls, and that doesn't count our follow-ups. We do a lot of follow-up. And this quarter, we've had over 180. Oh, I meant to say too, we also have a multidisciplinary team on the mobile crisis team, so we try to send out a master's level clinician with a peer support or a case manager, but we're in the process of hiring peers as well.
It's a good transition to my question. So this is for all of you. If you could wave a magic wand and make one thing happen that would make your job easier, whether it's more staffing or more services to refer people to, what would it be? And to follow up, does that answer change when you're thinking about your youth population and their needs? It's a big question, I apologize.
I mean, my answer, I always want to say more staffing, but honestly, it's the systems to refer people to, and in particular housing, and affordable housing for our families. And what we do know is that, we see a lot more adults than we see children, but many of those adults are our parents. And if we can stabilize their mental health and helps provide secure, housing, food security and housing security and stability, then we can make a difference for the whole family. And one of the biggest protective factors for youth is having one supportive adult. It just takes one. And so that is one thing that we connect people to. And I'm going to put up the Youth Era webpage because they're youth who support youth. And it's a really fabulous organization. But that would probably be mine.
Yeah, same. There's a pretty big bottleneck. We can see people and they're ready and willing, but there's just not enough providers on the tail end to get people somewhere stable. And like Stacey was saying, like everyone can get into therapy, but when someone doesn't have a safe place to sleep, it's really hard to feel safe enough to kind of work through all the stuff. So that can become a big thing. And that's why the Youth Era stuff for kids. So This is like an after-school program, so like 3 to 6-ish. They can go later once a kid is established there, but it's a drop-in center. So it gives kids a break, it gives parents a break, and there's mental health trained staff there to make sure the kids are safe. But it's a pretty teen-only place. Yeah.
Where is that located?
This is located in downtown Milwaukee, so it's quite far from here. But they take everyone, so there's no worry about insurance, nothing like that. They're free. Once a kid gets connected, if they have a peer that matches, sometimes if the peer is old enough and there's enough training, and there's a lot of loopholes for that, but they can actually pick kids up and meet outside of the hours. Yeah. But yeah, downtown Milwaukee.
What county or the state department are you part of?
We're Clackamas County.
So what part, what department?
Oh, behavioral health.
H3S, we call it Human Services, Health, Housing, and Human Services, and we are the Behavioral Health Division.
And I just wanted to add a few comments regarding Wilsonville specifically. We do have challenges here as far as a lot of enough resources. Like, folks don't have options for showers or washers and dryers, because they would need to go to Clackamas County. In Oregon City would be the closest. We do have resources in Washington County, but there are a lot of challenges that we find, especially with housing and specifically folks who are houseless. You know, it's really tough to get. It's not an overnight fix when we work with someone, and even though we may get them connected to resources, you know, there have been some people I've worked with literally the whole time I've been here for 2 years, and you know, getting them housed has been really challenging. So we're trying to put the pieces together as we can, and so I don't say that in a negative that, you know, there's no hope. However, there is a lot of resources that we're lacking. And so I think it's really helpful for our community members to understand that even though we are really fortunate to have me dedicated here along with our crisis team, there is going to be frustration at times because we don't have the magic wand all the time. But I do want to thank our incredible city, who have really put a lot of effort into really trying to help the community by offering this particular program and others. And so we have some amazing community members here with Heart of the City and the Wilsonville Community Sharing. And we have a food bank that most people don't know about through the Clackamas College. And yeah, it's the little resources that we have to provide here as a community are huge. And we've worked hard as social service team members to work as a team here. We also, I don't want to miss out on recognizing Sadie, who works with our elderly community here. And we just really have a really tight connection as a social services. We're all trying to help the same community members. And so I just wanted to, I know it's not specific to youth, but we are here in Wilsonville. And we all work really hard to try, you know, from the city administration on down in the government, you know, everybody works really hard to try to help in the ways that we can.
I was just gonna say, I don't know the answer to this, but you know, all of us that are here right now are hearing this, but most people are not hearing that we really do have people who could be helped by showers and washing machines. And I think Heart of the City has been working on that. But if anybody can think of different ways in different groups, networks, churches, clubs, to make this a conversation that people have more often with each other. Because there's a group of people who are good at saying it's a problem we shouldn't have, so the problem should not be here. But that doesn't help the problem. So fine. And so, I don't know, we need a lot of people to help raise the awareness. a lot of different centers in the community of this. Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people are not aware of what is going on. So forums like this to inform the public.
Yes.
Yeah. So, hooking on with what Mayor said, in an acute situation, and subacute where you need laundries and those types of things, is a youth shelter an option? Where is the closest one?
There is one. Here, sorry, I'm gonna finger poke. Evan. Yes.
Don't have any.
This.
I don't have any shelters in Clackamas County.
Yeah. This is the only one that is. Can you mention those pretty subacute, acute kind of situations? The only specific to youth shelter / respite is New Avenues Youth, the Alba House, or Alba Collaborative. Like you see, 9 to 17, they can be a stop for a kid for a night, for a few days. They have case managers, and they'll kind of help in those situations. But
Where is that?
this is out almost by Gresham. Yeah.
Runaways? No runaways.
Oh, I have not actually asked, but I have not heard of them turning anyone away. I do know there was one situation where they knew someone was going to run away, and they just had them go there, so it was kind of like a planned thing. But they're very open, so if you give them a call, they could totally answer that.
Do they? What's their capacity?
It changes daily, but I
20?
I think the last time I talked to them, it was 15. But I don't know if that's changed at all.
Is this comparable to Covenant House in Portland?
I don't know Covenant House, actually. But I want to say, can you tell me what Covenant House is, actually?
It's in Portland. It's drop-ins.
Oh, okay. Yeah, similar, except they can stay the night. There's like rooms for people to sleep. I don't know if Covenant House is the same way. But yeah, it's this one is kids only.
It's just
Yeah, okay. Oh, great. I'll look that up. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Did I see a hand? Or no?
And Robbie, I just wanted to add, this is maybe off topic for youth. We do have a lot of really great, actually for youth, we have some really great youth-specific peer programs that we can reach out to for kids who are struggling and having some challenges with substance use. And I think that's an important topic to discuss as well. It also isn't easy to get people in very quickly to treatments because there's variables with insurance and potentially individual or dual diagnosis. So, but I do want to say for youth specifically, we do have some amazing options for peer services and other resources that you guys can think of specific to substance.
It's really big. Like, was it Charlie Health?
Charlie Health.
Yeah, Charlie Health.
Yeah, Charlie Health is another really great resource, and 4D. So.
Other questions?
I think a forum like this will also disturb the naysayers. The people that say we don't want the
Endless caught.
Yeah.
Problem.
Right.
Yeah, because to have the services, they got to be kind of closer. So it could ruffle some feathers, but we're willing to have the conversations. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any last questions before?
I'll see. Just another hot topic we haven't really addressed is schools. Just to let you all know that we do go into schools when we're invited, and we'll do a lot of assessments there. We've definitely seen an increase in the past, probably 3-4 years, of threat assessments in schools, where someone has Snapchatted or other things, some sort of threat. And so that is definitely something that we try to to make sure that we're well connected to the school community and that we're doing good support there, and to the school resource officers. I know Brenda has a good connection down here with the school resource officers. And so I just want to throw that out there. Schools are a big piece of, the life of a youth. They spend a lot of hours there. And so it's important to think about things like bullying and, and connect up. There are often good resources can be connected through the schools as well. Thank you. Thank you for the work.